for me, I'm always interested in building things, and success for me is more on a team level. How can I partner, collaborate, and come together with a team to achieve a common goal, whatever that is. And then, success, I think also on a personal level, have kids and a family. And so want to continue to provide my kids amazing opportunities to pursue, whatever their passions are.
Hi, and welcome to Indian Explorers. In this podcast, we talk about Indian success stories. I am Sabrina, and together with my co-host Amit, we will get to understand the journey of our guests and what really drives them. The optimism, patience, idealism, and courage, these are their attributes that we want to bring to life in our conversations with them. If you enjoy the show, please hit the subscribe button and share it with others. How's it going?
Hi, Sabrina. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I was good until I saw this morning a news article that WeWork is going to go bankrupt.
Okay. WeWorks is the company that you rent spaces from, correct?
Co-working spaces.
Co-working spaces.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a couple
And
years ago,
why is that sad for you?
Well, a couple of years ago, I thought I was being smart investing in WeWork, and I put a very small amount of money, $2,080 into WeWork.
Okay.
And this morning, guess how much that $2,080 is worth? Since you're great at guessing.
$2.80.
Very good, Sabrina. $4.
You didn't watch the documentary or the movie about WeWorks?
I saw the TV show.
The TV show. That didn't entice you to sell your stock?
On the contrary, I thought of buying more. I thought it was going to become more popular. I thought, think about it, Sabrina, think about it. You're a company. Okay, I'm a company. COVID has just happened. All right. I think COVID is over. People have to get back to work, right? Office rentals are too expensive. Hence, vacancy in San Francisco is 30%, right? So I'm a company. I want to try a new line. I don't want to invest in a new office and put in the internet and the furniture and hire 50 people. I want to try something and get in and out. Oh, great. WeWork exists. It's collaborative. They have internet. They have beer. They're open 24 hours a day. And I can actually have a meeting today in Chicago and tomorrow in London. And I can get online in the app and reserve the bloody office room.
Yeah, it is a genius concept.
Sabrina, I can, with the WeWork app, know that at 9 a.m., I'm going to be landing in London. I can book the office at 12 o'clock. I can even have a document printed and be there waiting on that desk at 12 o'clock. I thought the concept was phenomenal. If it wasn't for that alcoholic, no-shoe, Adam Newman.
We win some, we lose some. So you'll win it back on another stock.
Yeah, I put some more money in NVIDIA, so that's doing quite well. So
hey, I put money into. Well, I told Noel I have a winner. And it was AMC. And
wow,
the day
cinema.
After,
AMC is the cinema chain.
The cinema chain. I was like, how much did you put? I don't even remember, but I was like, why do you listen to me? I'm not the one that recommends stock picks. Like, I'm the worst, but it's climbing back up now. Hopefully it continues. I think Barbie helped. Taylor Swift definitely helped. So
yeah, I think if we ever decided to do a podcast where we share our portfolios and our performances and in the same episode ask people why they're so successful, I think people would just laugh at us too much, Sabrina.
Let's just not do it when we have like a VC on or some high level financier on the show.
I think we should just not do it.
Yeah, I agree.
No, we should not do. We should just stick to interviewing successful people. That's what we do best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
The other thing I read, Sabrina, was that there's serious talk about converting the working week from 5 working days, Monday to Friday, to only 4. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that. I thought it was a bit shocking. I thought we're being less competitive to China and India, and now in America they want to work 4 days a week.
So I think there's pros and cons. And I had written a blog about 4-day weeks for schools, okay, because that's come up mainly because of expenses and hiring staff at schools. Um, but for the work week, I mean, I've thought about it. You know, do you go hard for 4 days, and then the 3 days you get that mental health break, that physical break? I think it depends on the person if it's going to work or not. You know, what type of work ethic you have. I feel like I could do it, but I don't know if everyone else would be as efficient in those 4 days.
I don't think it's possible. I think no matter where you look at it worldwide, employees will be employees. In my staff, we say 8:30 in the morning. By 8:45, they're in. By 8:45 to 9:15, they're heating up their breakfast. You know, they don't have breakfast at home at 6:30. No, honestly. So I don't
Yeah.
think that works. I think all we're doing is having less hours in the week, and I wouldn't recommend it. And I hope it's not something that becomes law. Like, maybe in France, I expect it, but not in the rest of the world.
Yeah, you make a good point. Like if we're, trying to compete with, China and other big economies, how that works. Um, I I don't see it working, but for someone like me, I feel like I could do it. I also think, that break, the weekend comes and people here try to run all their errands, do all their children's activities, all that stuff. And it's like, are you finding time to decompress? I think that's where balance comes in. And I don't think most people have a strategy to find balance. So, no, I
Yeah.
don't think it would work for people
I think
or
the world,
companies.
I think the world is getting tougher. I think we're the first time in history where our generation is less happy and has less income than our parents' generation had.
Hmm.
And I think, look at AI. AI shows that things are not going to stop. And I think it was a lot of people who wrote that letter asking AI progress to stop. And everyone was like, sure, sure, we'll stop in America. But what do you think China, India, and the rest of the world are doing? Like,
Yeah.
they're never going to stop. And China has 6, 6, 9, six
With it.
days a week. They work Monday to Saturday, and they work
Okay.
9 hours a day, including Saturdays, right? So that's not going to stop. So
Yeah.
I think it's a bad idea. I read about it and I thought, I'm not reading this article fully.
I'm still a big proponent of AI. I know people see the negative, and of course, again, pros and cons, but I see so many positives for the future.
I'm seeing AI girlfriends popping up on Instagram, not just models. Do you want a friend? And it's this pretty AI robot showing cleavage, more cleavage than the regular Instagram girls, saying, will you be my friend? I'll talk to you about anything you want. I was like, I tell you, there's no between Pornhub and Instagram every day they're just getting more
I
aligned.
guess people's social fitness is going to be much more balanced with AI. New friends.
There should be a button like, do you want AI generated content? No, like a filter.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great idea. Maybe that will end up coming in a lot of these social media platforms.
Let's hope.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Yeah. So today's guest, such a cool topic, and we need to butter him up so we could get some World Cup tickets and
I'm
we could
jealous of what
switch.
he does, and I will switch with him anytime.
Same,
Love
same.
what he
Let's
does.
get
So
to it.
let's
Yeah,
get to it.
let's introduce him. So today's guest is Akash Jain. Like us, he is a sports enthusiast, but the difference is he followed his passion and made it his profession, and we are living vicariously through him. He is the managing director for the Premier League in the US. Prior to, he was the vice president of strategy and planning at the MLS Major League Soccer. He's also held high level positions at the United States Tennis Association, the NFL, and the NBA, both in the US and in India. He has a passion for connecting consumers with sports and entertainment brands, and we are very excited to learn about his journey and talk sports with him. So, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Great to see you guys.
Great to see you as well.
How long has it been, Akash? Last I remember was a party where I met your lovely wife and you. I think it was a Playboy themed party in Bombay. Was that the last time we met?
Probably the last time we met, sometime around 2014, 2015, something like that, in Mumbai. Had a lot of those interesting parties there.
You look exactly the same, by the way. It looks like you haven't aged.
No, I have a little more hair. I let my hair grow out. If you remember, back then I would go all the way shaved.
It's usually the opposite,
Yeah.
right? As we get
Yeah.
older. So good
I
for
don't see any
you.
white hairs.
Little here and there, but my wife made me grow my hair out, changing the look a bit.
That's great.
So, Akash, before we get to, starting about your background, where you grew up, I saw that you graduated Michigan State University in 97. I'm a
Uh-oh.
Florida Gator. And when I was researching this or researching your past, I was like, this is not going to go well
Uh-oh.
because your Spartans broke my heart
Yes.
at our first basketball and national title game. And so I was like, this is going to be hard. But before we started recording, you told me your wife's a Florida Gator. So I think we're on the right track again.
Our worlds have come together. I've come to now appreciate the Gators, even though there's a big rivalry there. So I actually spent a lot of time in Florida because she grew up there, and all of her family is still there. So I won't hold that against you, Sabrina.
Okay, same. You married a Gator, so we're on good terms again. And so tell us about your journey. You grew up in Michigan, correct?
Yeah, grew up in Michigan. Amazing sort of a place to grow up. My parents, like many of us, were immigrants to the U.S. and settled there. So got a chance to grow up just outside of Detroit, and as you said, went to school in Michigan before venturing out further.
Okay.
And what sport did you play growing up?
Oh man, when I was really little, my mom was telling me I just played everything. So anything that was competitive, I was out there getting involved. As I started to get a little bit older and into school, I was playing a lot of depending on what we want to call it, football, soccer, basketball, and tennis. Those were the main sports that I was playing growing up.
We call it football, right, Sabrina?
It's funny now that we're doing the podcast, I'm always calling it football. It's so
I have to flip back and forth being in the US and now working for a global football league.
Yeah, exactly. So did you know at a young age that, you know what, I'm going to work in the sports industry? Or how did that happen? You get your MBA then at Oregon.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
No, not at all at a young age. Honestly, I had a passion for sports. And then I think the unique thing is I was always interested in sort of what we call beyond the lines, what was happening from a financial perspective, investments in players, teams, etc. But at that time, at that age, didn't really understand what a career in sports would look like. Again, outside of the lines, unfortunately, while I played a lot of sports, I was a skinny Indian kid, like many of us growing up, and didn't have the opportunity to play professionally.
Yeah.
And so, I graduated undergrad and had a couple of jobs in sort of finance and consulting. And then was always sort of in the back of my mind to potentially go back to school and get a graduate degree. And as I was sort of researching that and just thinking about the next sort of phase of my career and what I really wanted to do, I decided to take a little bit of a chance. And I went back to graduate school at the University of Oregon here on the West Coast in the US. And they have a program there within their MBA program, which is really dedicated to the sports industry. And essentially, it's called the Warsaw Sports Business Center. And essentially, what you do is you get sort of your traditional MBA education, but within that, you're applying a lot of what you're learning business problems and solutions within the industry. And then there's a number of ancillary programming through that center within the industry. So I got to meet a lot of professionals that were in the industry, visit companies,
Yeah.
and again, just learn about what different careers might be in the industry, because I just didn't have any idea really prior to that.
That's so cool. I wish I would have known about that back then.
Yeah, it
I'm
was.
going back to get my MBA.
Yeah, it was early. It was early days, and so what was cool for me is um, at that early age, I really sort of had an interest in global sports and
Okay.
wanting to get an interest in working and learn about what was happening sort of beyond the U.S. borders. And so, as I was in school thinking about internships, at the time in the early 2000s, the NBA was really the one that was the most global of the U.S. sports properties at that time, because they had a number of players from around the world, and the sport is played around the world. And again, I was unfortunate to get an internship between my first and second years of graduate school at the NBA. And so, one, I got to come live in New York for a summer, which at a young age was an amazing opportunity. And then got to spend the summer at the NBA's league offices. And they had a great program where I got to rotate around and meet leaders from across the league. And again, learn about what it really meant to have a career, what different roles were, what the different businesses were at the league office. And so that was really my foot in the door, if you will, and starting to get into the industry.
So tell us about the differences between running an MBA versus the NFL versus the MLS. Granted, in terms of viewership, the MLS is decades away, but structurally, what's the main difference before we get into the Premiership? What's the main difference between, let's say, the NBA, NFL?
Yeah, business models are very similar. I think the NBA is very much driven by the individual star players. So guys that you would know around the world that have their own profile, their own businesses off the court, and are using social media and other platforms in a big way. And that's helped the NBA really accelerate their presence globally. The NFL is slightly different. The teams have really strong heritage and have really driven their fan base. And a little bit of what we talk in the industry, the NFL, the players have helmets on, and so they're a little bit less recognizable than the NBA players that you can see sort of up close and personal when they're on the court. And so those are, I think two of the biggest difference between those leagues. But again, the sort of business model and what the leagues are trying to do, create an amazing game to connect with fans, around the world, and then ultimately deliver value for partners where they can build businesses.
I never knew Taylor Swift's boyfriend.
Right.
Like, I knew the team, but then now that she's so annoying on every bloody post on Instagram and Facebook and every social media channel, all of a sudden I know the guy, his number, his jersey, and I want him to lose, because it's just so annoying.
This is the
So
power
I
of
get what you're saying.
Yeah,
I
and
get
this,
what you're, yeah.
but this is the power of influencers, across a variety of different areas and sectors. And this is what leagues are trying to do to reach new audiences, right? Whether that one was meant to or not by the league, as leagues try to find new audiences using music, fashion, food,
Yeah.
travel, etc. And obviously, Taylor Swift has a huge global platform and following, so it had an impact around the world.
Poor
I
guy. Yesterday, he was getting criticized because he didn't have a great game,
Yeah,
even though they won. And they're like, well, Taylor wasn't there, so he doesn't.
oh God.
yeah,
I remember the days. I like the days. I grew up, I think Akash was similar age, when Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan and Larry Bird and Dennis
Mhm.
Rodman, what they did or who they did after the games, nobody ever knows. But
Yeah.
it was just different era back then, right?
different era, social media, content, everything's at every consumer's fingertips. And I think more and more, people are interested in the background and the behind the scenes. You've seen a ton of content, whether it's documentaries or other shows, which again
That's
help
true.
to reach new audiences for any league or property around the world.
Is it accurate that viewership of the NFL and NBA is down when it comes to millennials and Gen Zers? Are they watching sports less?
They're
Or
on the
is
phone.
that,
Yeah, I think
They're on
they're just
TikTok.
consuming differently.
yeah,
You have to meet. I think the saying is "fish where the fish are," and you have to meet consumers where they are. And so younger demographics are just consuming differently. So they're consuming more on the phone, highlights on social media, highlights on platforms like YouTube, etc. And obviously streaming now versus linear and cable, much different for those demographics. I talk about my son who's 9 and doesn't really watch any live television other than sports with me, and so that's just how he's consumed content. And so I think it's just different, and we all in the industry have to adjust to be able to deliver to that consumer.
yeah, makes sense. Ready to talk soccer or football?
I actually have one more question before we talk about soccer and the Premiership. Um, MBA. You opened up an office in India regarding the MBA. I know how big the MBA is in China.
Yeah.
I know because of all the time, every time they go after LeBron James or anybody, he will never say a bad word or tweet anything wrong about other countries. He's diplomatically correct. But I was surprised, like, what's India got to do with the MBA? You're just trying to get that demographic?
Yeah, if I take a step back, I had the opportunity at the NBA to work on a variety of international projects, and to your point, China was one of them, and so it was at very early stages where the NBA was doing something unique and different in China, which was to create a separate subsidiary in China and raise capital to accelerate growth. And once they set up that subsidiary, so the organization took a step back and said, what are other, large emerging markets that we should think about, study, and consider investing in if the right opportunities are there. And so there was a short list of markets, and India was on that list for all the reasons that any
No,
global business would think about it. Large young population, technology accelerating the economy rapidly. And so
sure.
I essentially spent a bunch of time. I tell people kind of commuting between New York and Mumbai for a couple of years, just going back and forth, talking to anyone and everyone in the sports and entertainment industry. We had a few existing partners at the time to learn about sort of the sports and entertainment industry. And sort of, fast forward, I came back and said, I think there's great opportunity for us. We've got to invest to grow the sport. There's a young population that speaks a lot of English, and believe there's opportunity for us to be able to grow the sport, build our brand, build popularity of the teams and NBA players. And there's this real celebrity nature for the players, which I thought was really interesting for the market. And so what I tell people is sort of my prize was a one-way ticket. So I relocated, Amit, as you know, to Mumbai to set up an office, build a team, and it was a great experience because we were doing everything from building grassroots basketball programs in schools across the country, working with the federation on elite basketball development, doing media deals to broadcast games in India, working with Bollywood stars, launching social media platforms, everything to be able to, again, grow the game, grow the league, and build a business.
Is the office still open there?
It is very much, yeah.
Okay.
They've continued to build. The sport has grown. They have great partnerships in the market. As far as I know, they've launched an academy to help grow
Very cool.
elite talent. So, I think they still have a good sort of 10 to 15 people on the ground in India.
When do we
Very
get a Luka Doncic type player from India in the NBA?
Yeah, who knows exactly when? But there was. It's funny, when I was there was always a number of sort of 7-footers, from
Mhm.
Punjab that were entering, the academies, and we were trying to find opportunities for them to continue to grow the game. It's always a bit of a needle in the haystack sort of strategy, but I think if they continue to invest, they'll have more and more talent playing not just in the NBA but around the world.
Move over, Wemby. Here we come.
Yeah.
All right, US, New York
Yeah.
office. What is going on? Why does the Premier League, the most famous football league in the world, I think number one in viewership worldwide, why do they need an office in New York? And what is the purpose of it?
Yeah, I think it was the right time. The Premier League has built an amazing fan base, particularly over the last decade in the U.S. Primarily to an amazing media partnership we have with NBC, and NBC has done an amazing job broadcasting our games and connecting our clubs and players with fans here in the market. They've invested a tremendous amount in studio shows and talent and things like that to continue to build a fan base here. Um, and so there's a great foundation already. And we felt it was the right time, for a couple of reasons. One, there's huge growth in the sport and massive tailwinds coming over the next couple of years in the US, the Club World Cup in 2025, 2026 World Cup in just a few years, and those to me are just going to be sort of a trampoline effect for the sport. And so for us, how do we make sure that we're positioned well to take advantage of that growth and those tailwinds for growth for the Premier League? And so it was the right time, and we're focused on really a couple of things. How do we continue to grow and engage fans and audience here? How do we continue to engage and work with our key partners? I mentioned NBC, EA, another partner with a product that is something that helps to engage fans. We want to help continue to be a catalyst to grow the sport and deepen relationships with really the key stakeholders, across the football ecosystem here in the U.S.
You had a summer series this past summer,
Yeah.
and it seemed to have been pretty successful. I read that 270,000 tickets sold throughout the series. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, it was just amazing because I had just started, and
Yeah.
we decided to bring the summer series, which was essentially a preseason tour. So we had 6 clubs over, traveling across 5 markets in the U.S. And to your point, over 250,000 fans came out to attend those
Fantastic.
games, and being able to bring live matches, our clubs, our players here to connect with fans was just amazing. So I got to really see, the passion, the interest and knowledge, of our fan base here. And again, we got to work with our partners. NBC broadcast all the games here. Sky broadcasts all the games in the UK. And what was also awesome, it was a great experience for all of our clubs and players
Hmm.
because the facilities are so good here in the US. They can really use it as a strong training ground, as sort of a preseason precursor into the regular season. So the matches on the pitch, even though it was preseason, were fantastic, very, very competitive. And again, for our fans to be able to experience that up close was just awesome.
When I read about the New York opening, I thought these guys are smart, but I thought they were smart because of the Messi mania that was about to come. But then Messi's here joining another league, obviously the MLS, the American League. What effect has the Messi move had to your business?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just overall increased the number of eyeballs and interest in the sport. And so the number of media outlets covering our sport, talking about our sport, has increased significantly. And we want to take advantage of that. I think, Amit, as you said, we believe we've got the best football product in the world with the best clubs and players in the world. And so the more engagement in our sport, the more football fans there are, hopefully that's good for our league and our business. And so I think it's just created much more exposure, much more interest, much more engagement in football in the U.S.
I'm a Real Madrid fan, so I'm going to disagree with one small point you said about the best players and the best team in the
Yeah.
world. Although definitely Man City, what they've done, they've made Manchester blue. We all know Man United is 20 leagues and then Liverpool 19, and Sir Alex Ferguson is a god. But, I think the Premiership is definitely where the money is flown into it. And, in the next 10 years, they'll be favorites to win the Champions League, which is at the end of the day, after the Premier League title, probably the most sought after competition for Premier League, La Liga, and all the European teams.
Yeah, I mean the success of Man City has been amazing, and many of our other clubs, whether it's across the Premier League or other competitions around the world. And so we're excited about where the league is now, but believe there's even more growth coming in the future. And this season there's tremendous competition, as you've seen, and so we're excited to see how it plays out.
Christian Pulisic earlier this year goes to Milan. When does the Premier League get a big US star?
Who knows when. I think that there is some great American players, now in the league that we're watching, from Trusty at Sheffield to Ream and Robinson at Fulham. I think there's also just a ton of investment has gone on really over the last few years in player development in the U.S.
Yeah.
Many European clubs are investing in the U.S. to help grow the game and develop talent. The MLS has done an amazing job really creating a elite development pathway, almost from kind of the age of 12 on up. And so I think those investments will pay off over time, where there'll be more and more elite talent being developed in this market. And our hope is, again, as we continue to grow the league and take advantage of those opportunities, that we provide the opportunity for our clubs to have the best talent in the world in our league from wherever market they come from.
When you were at the MLS, I'm not sure how familiar you are with all the NPSL teams. My cousins who were on a previous episode, they live in Laredo, Texas, and own the Laredo Heat Soccer Club.
Oh, wow.
And that's their focus. They have a youth club as well, and their focus is just development. And it's been great to see them grow over the last almost 15 years or so.
Yeah, there's the MLS, there's other lower division leagues, when you mentioned USL, who are all investing in growing their footprints, across the US, and just providing more and more opportunity for youth to be involved in the game. The NWSL, the Women's League, has grown rapidly, over the last couple of years, and so the growth has been tremendous. And as I said, the tailwinds coming up with 2026 around the corner, these young people who are playing, consuming, and watching the game are going to experience what everyone's calling the largest sporting event to ever happen in the world is going to be happening in our backyard in 2026. And so it's just going to be an amazing opportunity and spectacle.
Well, very smart for you guys to get ahead of it all.
Let us know if we get tickets through you for the World Cup, or we have to go. What are you laughing about, Sabrina? We're all going. My whole family are huge football Spain fans. So that's not my question, though.
Yeah.
Spain and the US. I have a daughter who's 10 years old who is in love with Alex Morgan, Sophia Smith. And then actually next week, we're going to the US men's national game in Austin. So,
That's
I mean,
great.
we're big fans.
I was going to say
Yeah.
I
And my
haven't
So,
eight-year-old loves Ronaldo.
Okay. I haven't seen
So
him in a while, but somehow he hasn't changed in all these years asking for tickets.
yeah. I mean,
too
if
late
we
to
do have
change.
them, we'll gladly take them.
I wanted to ask you, Akash, for how popular the Premier League actually is versus Bundesliga, La Liga. If you can, I don't know what you can share with us, but high level, like, is the Premier League twice as important, three times as important in the US today?
Yeah, I think the best stats I could share are, from a viewership standpoint.
Hmm.
Last season our audience was three times any other league or tournament. So that would include the other European leagues, Champions League, et
Yeah.
cetera. And a lot of that's been driven by, again, we have an amazing game on the pitch and a tremendous partner in NBC. And we've got a sort of a tremendous balance of broadcast on NBC's network channels, USA, which is a cable channel, as well as on Peacock. And the audiences on Peacock on their streaming service have been fantastic. And so we have continued to see growth. The opening weekend of this season was the most watched weekend that we have had in the U.S. since 2015. And so exciting start to the year, and I like to think some of that is because we had the summer series here, in late July, and we created a lot of excitement and buzz for the league here, and so it's been tremendous. Almost over 40 million unique individuals tune in the U.S. to Premier League games throughout the season. And again, we only see more and more opportunity for the sport to grow, and hopefully more and more eyeballs on our league through the partnership we have with NBC.
I have a double question, personal. Let me know if you can answer this or not. Do you have a favorite team of the Premiership, of the 20 teams, or are you meant to be neutral because of your job? That's first question.
Yeah.
And the second question, given how big sports betting is in the land of the free, the great United States of America, are you ethically, or are you able to bet for a particular team, or are both no-nos?
So the second question first, not able to bet.
Not able to bet.
Obviously, we need to be smart about that. The first question, I sort of two parts. One, support all 20 of our clubs to be able to grow. But I will say that my son has become a big Man U supporter, and I'm continuing to foster his fandom. And primarily, it happened because he got really interested in Ronaldo, and
Hmm.
so during Ronaldo's last Man U stint, that sort of pulled him in. And to his credit, he stayed loyal, which has been fantastic.
That's
That's
good.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah,
You're
especially
raising them right.
the way they're doing this year. If you still have a loyal fan, he's really loyal. Then
yeah,
it's a good sign.
yeah. He's with the ups and downs of the Premier League season. Still invested.
That's a true fan. True
Yes,
fan.
exactly.
Yeah.
It really is. I just want to say it really is. I followed it since '92, Alan Shearer days, Chris Sutton days, when Leicester is a no-name team. They won the league. I think it's 95, 96 season, with James Vardy scoring, from all over the place. Um, I used to love Ian Wright. My favorite player of all time, I don't even think you know who this guy is. His name is Matthew Letizier. Matthew Letizier is a Southampton player, and I thought about him because you mentioned your son's loyalty. Matthew Letizier, every year, were Man U and all the top teams offered him whatever money he wanted, and he was like Totti. He said, "No, I'm staying in this team. I'm staying in this team. I'm staying in this team."
Wow.
And he's such a good player, Matthew Letizier. And just recently, actually, he was in the news for all the wrong reasons. He tweeted something about the Ukraine war, and he was cancelled, and he was forced to resign his job as an ambassador for the club. But anyway, that's for
Yeah.
another story.
Well,
Should we
one,
jump into?
amazing
Yeah,
you've got such deep knowledge. You've been a fan for a long time, but these are, the types of players and storylines that I think keep bringing more and more fans into our league. And we talked about some of the uniqueness between the NBA and NFL, the uniqueness of the Premier League, obviously promotion, relegation, being part of a sort of a global a talent pool and competing with other European leagues for talent. It's sort of really, really interesting dynamics, which I'm really enjoying learning as I've joined the Premier League.
you mentioned promotion relegation because the NBA and NFL doesn't have that system, and that's the reason why when Florentino Perez last year tried to come up with his Super League, with the top clubs for viewership, was rejected primarily by the British. They were the British fans who came out and said, "How dare you?" And then Chelsea and all the British clubs that signed up for the Super League had to basically put the head down and just quietly resign. Do you remember that?
Yeah, there was a lot obviously going on in the sport at that time, and we're obviously focused on how do we continue to grow the Premier League and create an amazing game for our fans around the world.
Yeah, I think my final thing on the Premier League, the reason why I think it's the most exciting league in the world is because at the end of the day, there are 6, 7 teams that can win the league. Whereas in in Spain, there's 2, maybe 3. In France, there's 1. In Germany, it's pretty much 1. So the Premiership does have that. Although now some would argue the Premiership is Man City's to win for the next decade. At the end of the day, Man City can lose, like Liverpool just drew to Luton, on the weekend.
Yeah.
So in terms of if you're not there to compete on any given Saturday or Sunday, you could lose to anybody. So the 20th team could beat the top team. And I think that's what makes the league so exciting, other than they have the best physical players, etc.
Yeah.
Anyway,
From
that's
top to
my
bottom,
two.
exciting. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Agree.
So we ask all our guests what success means to them. And we want to hear your thoughts. So what does success mean to you?
And you can't copy what Janice said.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty amazing what he said.
Yeah.
I think for me, success is an individual or a team really giving all they can towards a common goal, really aligning to strive for a goal to reach your ambition. And so I can understand kind of where Giannis was coming from.
Well, what's your definition of success? Forget Janice. What's your personal or career like? Has success changed for you? Is it a financial metric goal that you're trying to reach? Is there a position that you're trying to reach within the organization? We want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, a couple of things. One, obviously, there's ambition from a professional standpoint, continuing to grow in your career. For me, I'm always interested in building things, and success for me is more on a team level. How can I partner, collaborate? And come together with a team to achieve a common goal, whatever that is. And then, success, I think also on a personal level, have kids and a family. And so want to continue to provide my kids amazing opportunities to pursue, whatever their passions are. And continue to see them grow. So I sort of look at it both on the personal and professional side. And then I would also just add on the personal side, one thing that me and a few others have been thinking about a lot recently is how do we, as South Asians in the sports industry, who have been fortunate to rise to leadership positions, impact sort of the next generation and others in the industry. So that's certainly something that I'm also focused on quite a bit.
I love that. That's great. Do your kids ever say, I know your son is, a football fan, but do they want to do what dad's doing?
I think my son is starting to think like that. It's funny because he's only 9, but we'll joke around sometimes and say,
Yeah.
"Hey, what do you want to be when you grow up?" And when he was younger, he always wanted to be a park ranger because he loves the outdoors and loves
That's
animals,
awesome.
and we were supportive. Now, as he's playing more sports, I think seeing kind of a little bit of what I do, he's sort of opening up his mind to other opportunities outside of a park ranger in the sports industry. And so for me, look, I love that he's passionate about a number of different things,
Yeah,
including sports. And hope that I'm just giving him exposure to a variety of different opportunities, which again, as I sort of told you my story, I didn't really have any idea what a sort of a career in the business side of sports
of
meant,
course.
back in the day. And so hopefully I can at least provide that exposure and opportunity for them to pursue their dreams.
Absolutely.
I thought your son should be happy with the box seats he's probably getting for every game he's watching, right? That should be enough for now.
They again, fortunate, they are spoiled in a good way, that we get to attend a few sporting events around the world, which is
Yeah,
amazing. So funny.
here, son, sit next to Kevin De Bruyne. He's
Yeah.
injured. Sit next to Kevin.
Yeah. So I told you my son's a Man U fan. My daughter, she's always sort of been a casual sports fan. And when she started to understand, what I did, we were in London as a family in June, and because my son was so passionate, I got to organize a sort of a little bit of a behind the scenes tour of Stamford Bridge, the
Chelsea,
The
Sabrina.
Chelsea venue, and it kept it a bit of a surprise. And so if you're walking in that neighborhood, you sort of don't see the stadium, and you just turn a corner, and all of a sudden it's there. And so they were both surprised. But anyway, we're walking, into the stadium, into the locker room, down on the pitch, etc. And my daughter sort of came out of that really excited. She said, "I'm a Chelsea fan now." So
Wow,
That's so
that's her
cool.
story of how she became a
Yeah,
fan and a supporter of a club.
I love
that's awesome.
that.
Uh,
And I was going to ask, who have been your sources of inspiration, role models in your life?
Yeah, first and foremost for me starts with my parents. Like many of us, immigrants, into the U.S. At a very young age, and so words can't describe the ambition and fortitude they had to come to this country and build a life. The sacrifices that they've made, and I think as you get older and have a family, you really appreciate all of those things. So it starts with them for me. And on the sports side, I think Amit, you may have mentioned it, Magic Johnson, early on. I grew up in Michigan. He grew up in Michigan, went to Michigan State. So he was always actually my favorite basketball player growing up, because when I was playing, I always wanted to be a point guard as well. And then he helped to do some amazing things in the NBA. But then post sort of playing career, he's also built an amazing business, and done some amazing things in sort of underserved communities as well. And so just someone that I've always thought was a great role model and inspiration.
no doubt.
Good answer.
You know, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, obviously, who he played with a decade or so.
Yeah,
I don't know if he's got more rings than Magic. Do they both have 5, or
I
does
think
Kareem
they
have
both
more?
do. Yeah, we'd have to look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
Kareem
can
has
ask
a
Noel.
awesome newsletter. Kareem
He
Abdul-Jabbar
does.
has a newsletter on Substack, and I just subscribed to it last week, and it's pretty good. So I wanted to ask you about this All-Star Weekend concept, which, in the NBA is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, skills, 3 points, dunk contest, and then the best
Parties.
players, parties. Yeah. Have you ever thought about that? Like the All-Star Premier League weekend? Would that work? Is that a concept that you'd want to introduce to the Premiership?
Not to my knowledge that we've thought about it. Again, that may be outside of my scope. I think in the U.S., the NBA with All-Star Weekend, the NFL with sort of their Pro Bowl weekend and things like that have done a great job of sort of bringing together entertainment and the sport, and engaging those partners, but not something that I'm aware that we've considered.
Yeah. I personally find the All-Star weekend of basketball fun up to the main game, because the main game without
Yeah.
D is, here you go, dunk, here you go. And Steph Curry, and can anyway he can shoot with D from halfway. So in an
Yeah.
All-Star game, he can do what he wants.
Yeah.
So I find it quite I don't know use the word obnoxious, but I find it quite irritating towards the All-Star weekend.
Yeah.
And back when Jordan and Dominique had the dunk contest, and when they were actually competing and it was fun, I feel now it's just show. It's a
Yeah, it is. I think it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a bit too American for my liking.
Yeah.
Is my way of saying it.
As I said, it's melding of entertainment.
Yeah.
Obviously the NBA is always looking for new and innovative ways to be able to bring their game to fans, whether it's through the All-Star game or, they've said this year they have something called the in-season tournament, which they've tried to model against, European football, of finding other sort of competitions within the season that teams are competing for. So it's just, again, trying to innovate. Sports fans and consumers are changing pretty rapidly now, with technology and other things.
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting to watch.
Should we get into the rapid fire,
Rapid
Akash?
fire. Let's do it.
Sure.
Favorite sports movie or sports TV show?
Yeah, two or three movies, if I could. Remember the Titans, Denzel. I just loved how sort of that brought communities together. Hoosiers. I've always been a big basketball fan, so sort of David versus Goliath, and then Rocky. Just a sort of a classic
Which one?
boxing film, the original, the first one.
Okay.
Yeah, those would be just.
I love 4.
Yeah.
I still cry. I still cry in 4.
Yeah. Amazing characters and amazing storylines.
Yeah. Good
He's
answers.
awesome.
I like
Yeah.
those.
Yeah.
I liked Friday Night Lights. The college
The show.
Great. Yeah,
college
great
show. Friday Night
Yeah.
Lights.
Yeah.
Great show.
Yeah, that was a great one.
And more recently, Ted Lasso.
Oh yeah.
I enjoyed
Great.
season 1.
Yeah.
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 If you weren't in the sports industry, what would you be doing?
Oh wow, good one. I think probably would love to be how do I call it? Sort of a travel photographer.
Wow.
So love to travel, love experiencing different cultures and food around the world, and to be able to try to capture those experiences would be just a cool, unique experience.
Very cool. Is photography a hobby of yours?
Not really a hobby anymore, but something that I was interested in an early age. So maybe I got to try to bring it back.
Yeah, go back to it. Yeah.
I was going to say United Nations ambassador or something, but we haven't spoken about Michael Jordan. You mentioned Magic Johnson, Brady. We can go on for an hour on just this one question.
Yeah.
Who is the GOAT? Who is the greatest of all time?
The GOATs for me, Jordan and Federer.
Okay.
So just two legends that sort of change the game and transcend. Those would be the two for me.
All right, good answers.
I agree with Huff. I agree with Jordan. Yeah.
Okay, you're
a Djokovic fan, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I'm a Nadal fan, obviously being from Spain.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, for that sport, at the end of the day, the Grand Slams, which Djokovic has now overtaken Roger, is going to be the deciding factor. Although I respect the answer, because as a person, Roger is the gentleman of, like he could have said Tiger Woods and I would understand him. Yeah. But Roger and Michael Jordan make me even like him more. It's like the right answer for any.
Yeah. Okay, I want you to answer with your head, not your heart. Who will be this year's college national football champion?
Ooh,
And I say that because you got your master's at Oregon,
yeah.
correct? So who's your pick?
Hmm.
Even if you don't like the team, who do you think is going to win?
Even if I don't like the team, I think
Yeah. Like
that,
I don't, I mean,
yeah, you
for
wouldn't.
me, my answer is
Right.
Georgia,
I have
but
to agree with you. I mean, I think Georgia
yeah,
has just been amazing over last couple of seasons and just continues to reload. So I know you hate the answer, but I would probably have to go with Georgia.
I agree with you. I hate my own answer,
Yeah,
but that's why I said with our heads, not our heart,
yeah,
right?
Akash, if you won the lottery, $100 billion,
yeah.
Elon Musk type, which sports team would you buy?
I would have to stick with my hometown, Detroit Pistons.
Okay.
Bad
And
boys.
yeah, grew up with the bad boys, and again, just always sort of grew up, had a passion for basketball, and would have loved to be a part of the hometown team.
That's great. Okay, last one. You have to pick 3 athletes to sit at your dinner table.
Hmm.
Who are you going to pick?
3 athletes to sit at the dinner table.
Good question.
Yeah, so many options. Um,
Alive? Alive only, Sabrina, or dead also?
Let's go alive.
okay.
Is Muhammad Ali alive?
No.
He's dead. Okay.
Yeah. Um,
That would have been a good one though.
yeah, that would have been a good one. So I'd probably go with Magic, who we talked about earlier.
Mhm.
Um, I would probably go with Tiger, Amit, who you mentioned, who just obviously revolutionized the sport. And then I'd probably go Ronaldo and invite my son to join the dinner,
Mhm.
since that's
Or
his.
take your place.
Or take my place. Yeah,
Take your...
one of the two, since he's such a big fan. And hopefully those 3 would give us some interesting sort of global
That'd
perspective.
be I think that'd be a fun dinner.
Yeah,
I would love to be a fly on that wall just to hear that conversation.
I
I
know.
wonder what
How
language they
fun.
would speak. Akash, we could talk about sports with you for another 2 hours, but we are respectful for our guest time. We want to thank you for agreeing to be with us today. We loved the chat, and we wish you all the best. We are confident that the Premiership is going to keep skyrocketing, not only in the US, but I think globally.
great. Appreciate it. Enjoyed the conversation, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Akash. This has been a lot of fun talking sports with you and learning more about your journey, where you came from, and we look forward to hearing where you're headed in your path. So, all the best to you and your family. Thank you.
Thanks.
Everyone, this has been an enjoyable and very entertaining conversation. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please share it with others and hit the subscribe button. Thank you, everyone.